Hey everyone, so today we're diving into something really cool. The place where science education and, believe it or not, stage magic come together. We're going to see how taking a regular old classroom demo and giving it a little magical spin can totally change the game, creating real awe and wonder and making learning stick. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, so first things first, just look at this thing. What if I told you that cone is about to roll uphill? All by itself. Yeah, I know, it sounds impossible. It completely defies gravity, right? But here's the twist. What if we're not supposed to think of it as a physics puzzle? Not yet, anyway. Because you see, we're starting with a trick. It's an illusion. The goal isn't to get you to solve an equation right off the bat. Nope. The goal is to make you see something so baffling that you just have to stop and go, wait a second. How on earth did that just happen? That's the whole idea here. Using a little bit of magic to get our brains fired up and curious about the real science hiding behind the curtain. Now, this whole approach, it's not just about having a bit of fun. It's actually designed to fix a really big problem in how we teach. You know, for decades, teachers have been doing these cool demonstrations to try and make class more interesting. But here's the catch. Does just watching a cool experiment actually help you learn anything? Well, the research points to a pretty clear answer. Nope, not really. In fact, check this out. A study from Harvard back in 2004 came to a pretty shocking conclusion. They found that students who just sit there and watch a demonstration they learn no more than students who didn't see the demonstration at all. It's basically just passive entertainment, like watching a TV show. For any real learning to happen, you need something more. And that something more is all about engagement. It's the difference between being a spectator and being a detective. Right? When you're just passively watching, information just washes over you, in one ear, out the other. But when you are actively trying to figure out a puzzle, when you have a real stake in the outcome, that's when you start asking questions. You need to know the secret. And that's when the real learning actually kicks in. Okay, so how do we get there? How do we create that kind of engagement? Well, the secret ingredient is something that magicians and actually the best comedians have known forever. It's the power of surprise. It's all about setting up an expectation in someone's mind and then just completely, utterly flipping it on its head. There's actually a fancy psychological term for this. It's called thwarted expectations. And it's exactly what it sounds like. When something happens that goes completely against what you thought was going to happen, your brain just snaps to attention. It's like a little alarm goes off that says, whoa, pay attention. You get instantly curious, you're engaged, and you have this sudden urge to figure out why you were wrong. And this principle, it works way beyond the science lab. Take this classic zinger. Lady Astor says to Winston Churchill, "If I were your wife, I would put poison in your coffee." Now you expect him to get angry, right? To be insulted. But instead he shoots back, "If I were your husband, I would drink it." See? He totally subverted her attack, thwarted our expectations, and that's what makes the joke so brilliant and memorable. It's that exact same brain jolt happening. All right, so we get the why now. Let's dig into the how. We're going to circle back to that cone rolling uphill, and we'll look at another amazing illusion too. We're going to deconstruct them and see exactly how they work, not just as a piece of theater, but as a really clever science lesson. Time to peek behind the curtain. Okay, let's kick things off with that first mystery, the anti-gravity roller. You've seen the impossible puzzle, right? So now it's time for the big reveal. How does a teacher actually pull this magic off in a classroom? So, the teacher becomes a magician. First, they set the trap. They take a normal pen and roll it down the ramp just to prove to everyone which way is downhill. Simple enough. Then they add a little showmanship. Maybe they claim to have telekinetic powers, and they say they're going to make this special cone roll up the incline. And then, the moment of truth, they let it go, and it works. It rolls uphill. And just like that, everyone in the room is completely hooked. So, what in the world is the scientific secret? Well, it all comes down to something called the center of mass. You can just think of it as an object's main balance point. Here's the kicker. The cone isn't actually rolling uphill at all. Because the two rails get wider as they go, the cone's center of mass, its balance point, is actually getting lower and lower as it moves. It's basically sinking down into that widening gap. Our eyes see the slope of the rails and get totally fooled. But gravity is doing exactly what it always does. All right, on to our next trick, and this one is even more mind-blowing. Picture this. A teacher takes a glass test tube, smashes it into a million tiny pieces, and then, with some kind of magic liquid, puts it all back together again. And again, the performance is everything. The teacher wraps a test tube in a piece of paper, takes a hammer, and just completely shatters it. You hear the crunch and everything. Then they pour all those broken shards into a beaker filled with this mysterious magic liquid. They give it a little stir, and then they reach in and pull out a perfectly whole, completely repaired test tube. I mean, come on, that looks like straight up magic. The science behind this one is just as cool, though. That repaired test tube, it was already in the beaker, hiding in plain sight. It was invisible. How? Because both the type of glass it's made from, Pyrex, and the liquid, which is usually something like mineral oil, bend light in almost the exact same way. The science term is refractive index. Think of it like perfect see-through camouflage. If something doesn't bend light differently than what's around it, our eyes literally cannot see it. Poof, it just vanishes. Okay, so now that we're in on the secrets, here's the best part. This isn't some super secret, complicated technique that only a few people can do. Nope. Anyone can take a standard science demo and turn it into an incredible piece of magic. It really just boils down to a simple 3-step formula. Here's the recipe. Step 1, find a science demo that has a surprising or unexpected result. Step 2, don't explain it. Instead, build up the wrong expectation. This is where you put on your showman hat. Be dramatic. Claim you've got magic powers. And step 3, just do the trick. And then wait. The curiosity in that room will be off the charts. Students will be practically begging you to tell them how it really works. And that really gets us to the heart of it all. The point of this isn't to trick people or to deceive them. It's to inspire them. The real magic, the stuff that actually matters, happens in that moment a student's curiosity just explodes, and they start asking how and why about the world around them. They start looking for the real secrets, the ones that are hidden in plain sight all around us. There's this fantastic quote from Marcel Proust that just nails it. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And isn't that what great teaching's all about? It's not just about showing people new things. It's about giving them a new way to see the world they thought they knew. So that leaves one last question for you. What bit of everyday magic are you going to discover next?